Okay, so good evening. The purpose for the recording is so that I can place the recording in Blackboard. And for those who were unable to attend tonight, they would also be able to have access to this information. But also for those of you who are here, I think it could prevent you from having to take notes necessarily because you could also always refer back to this. So I'm Dr. Duncan, and for many of you, it's the first time we've kind of had an interaction in person. And the reason why I wanted to do that was that there was a lot of confusion around the beginning of this class during October. Well, actually, for some of you, from the beginning of the school term, which was in August. And in light of that, I just kind of wanted to make sense of how the course is being run, and I want to talk a little bit about psychology, and then I want to entertain any questions that you might have. So I'll start by saying this is an extremely large class, and the reason for that is because when the class was initially moved from the full term to the mini term, the plan was that those students in the full term class would be put in this section for the mini term. There was there were some times when we missed the um we missed the boat, we missed the signal with the registrar's office. So basically what happened is that the course opened for the mini term. Advisors put all new students in the class and left those students who were in the full term class out. And so we had to extend this course to from 20 students to 46, I think it is. So it's an extremely large class, and I'm trying to adapt and to adjust the assignments in that regard also because I have to grade them. Why do I have to grade them? Because the instructor who we identified to teach this course ended up with the uh, documents and everything that needed to happen for her to be hired. They just took too long, even though we had since August to work on it. I'm sure many of you have had some experiences either at Norfolk State or someplace else where it just took so long to get things done. And so I assumed this class to prevent from having to cancel it. So here we are. The course is a 7-week course. We are in week 4. And it is a very quick paced course, but no different than any other mini term course that you would take. So, Introduction to Psychology is a course that often is taught in the mini term. I don't necessarily want you to feel as though it's rushed or you're getting gypped. Although the registration for those students, primarily who were psychology majors, was pressed because they didn't get in until week 2. Nonetheless, here we are at week 4, having discussed the history of psychology, which is chapter 1, and what psychology really is. We've then discussed the biological bases of psychology, which I find interesting. If you look at the definition of psychology, and hopefully what I'm saying to you will help to make sense of the overall course and may actually answer some of your questions about the content of the course. The the term psychology is really from the Greek, and um it means psyche and logos, which is the science of the mind. Currently, we define psychology as the science of mental processes and behavior. So, when we talk about psychology, we're talking about animal and human activity of the brain and of the mind. So there is no activity of anything living that doesn't involve psychology, right? So to me, that is why psychology is so relevant. Everything that happens from the election to what's happening in the White House to things that are happening in our neighborhood, things that are happening in our family. Those things have a psychological basis. And with that, because the mind is such an important part, critical piece of what we talk about, we study the biological basis. And if you were able to study that, then you'd know that we're talking about the brain, the spinal cord, all of the things that allow us to be able to think and to behave, right? And then we went into talking about consciousness, right? And the states of consciousness. People often think that sleep is an unconscious state. But what you should learn from psychology, intro to psychology, is that Sleep is a state of consciousness. You have a level of awareness because you never fall out of the bed. Well, you never fall out of bed. Most times you don't fall out of the bed. And that's because even in our sleep, our body is aware of our positioning, right? And so we talk about that. We talk about drug use, which is an altered state of consciousness. We talk about daydreaming, which is an altered state of consciousness. And then we move to talking about motivation and emotion. And we talk about the ways in which we feel emotionally and the ways in which we're motivated can be determined by a lot of external factors, but also can be affected by our internal factors, right? Like I ask students often, why did you choose to come to college? Let me get you guys to answer that. Why did you choose to come to college? And then more specifically, why did you choose Norfolk State? Because that's a motivation question. So who wants to answer that? Just unmute yourself and say.
The question was, why did I choose Norfolk State?
Why'd you
And
choose to come to college? And then more specifically, Norfolk State.
well, I chose to come to college because I felt like in my hometown, I was in a box. And I feel like being in college, being especially at Norfolk State, I guess not too far away from home, it's
Hmm.
a HBCU.
Hmm.
And I believe that like if you can make I believe I can make the best of any situation. So like that's why I chose Norfolk State, even though like people do talk bad on it. I still feel like I can almost succeed wherever I'm gonna go. And I feel like college opens up way more doors for you in the long run with the people you meet. And yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your answer, Micah. Now, just raise your hand. How many of you heard internal motivation as to why Micah chose to come to college and more specifically Norfolk State? Raise your hand if you think that there was some internal motivation. This is not a quiz, so you're not going to get penalized. Nobody thought it was internal. Raise your hand if you thought it was external.
I'm
I,
not sure how to raise my hand.
okay, well, tell me. Tell us. What do you think? Kayla?
Hold on, I gotta go back to my notes. I don't think it was external.
You thought it was internal.
Yeah.
Okay, based on?
Um, One second. I'm trying to find it, guys. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm glad you're referring to notes.
I apologize. If you don't mind me asking real quick, um, what are we talking about again? I apologize.
We're talking
Not
about your level of motivation to come to
okay.
college, which is
I just
actually the chapter we're studying now.
okay. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if I was supposed to be re-answering again. So
Oh
anything.
no. Oh, the exact question right now we're talking about is it was it internal or was it external? And I'm
Oh
going to go
yes.
ahead and give you guys a hint. It was both because I heard him talk about he felt like he was in a box in his hometown, so he wanted to get out. But one of the reasons why he chose college and then maybe more specifically NSU was the fact that he felt like it would open doors for him. And so that's an external motivation, right? So it was actually both. And usually our motivations are both internal and external, right? If you think about anything that you've done lately, you can determine whether or not you did it mostly because that's who you are and that's how you operate, Or was it because of the way that other people influence the way that you think? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so again, the application of this, a lot of times the notes are great, but take it a step further and say, how does that apply to me? Right? So like I've been all day doing what I do, but when it was 8 o'clock and it was time for me to get on this Zoom, I put on some lipstick. That was an external motivation, right? Because I wanted to look more professional and put together than the way I've been looking all day. So I was externally motivated to look a certain way. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Hope it does. So I've kind of tried to summarize the 4 chapters that we've studied so far. The introduction chapter, which talks about the history of psychology, talks about what psychology is and how it has evolved over the years. It's a fairly young science when you compare it to biology and chemistry, but nonetheless, it's a science. And because of that, we study it scientifically. So I'm going to use some time now to ask to see if you have any questions about content, and then we're going to talk about the logistics of the course because I know you're concerned about that as well. Mind tap, grades not posting, and all the like. But I do want to see if there are any content questions before I move to that. Any concepts you find interesting or you didn't understand something specifically about it? I want to answer those questions tonight if I can.
I actually do have a question. I'm trying to look through my notes right now for it. If you give me one moment.
Sure.
Okay.
While you're finding it, is there another question?
Could you explain drive theory? The drive theory? You know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to refer to notes too. Let's see, can I get to one? Okay, I'll try to get them on my phone. So we're talking about the chapter that we're currently in, motivation and emotion. And so there are a lot of theories of motivation, as you could see in the text. And they all point to what they believe is the source of our motivation. And with the drive theory, the idea is that our behavior is motivated by internal drives. They use examples like hunger, like thirst, and there are some researchers, theorists, who also add sex as one of our internal drives that motivates our behavior. So, this theory basically is saying we do the things that we do around certain behaviors based on the internal drive that is directing that action. So when we're hungry, our motivated behavior is to what?
Go find something to eat
To go find something to eat. When we're thirsty, our motivated behavior is to do what?
and go drink something.
And when we meet the need, when we meet the internal need, then our body reaches a point of what's called homeostasis. Homeostasis is the balance. And theorists who espouse the drive theory say that we seek to keep a state of homeostasis. We seek to keep a state of balance in the body. And when that balance is off, we will then govern ourselves, behave in a way so that we can meet the need. Sometimes this theory is also called the drive reduction theory. And simply put, it is our behavior is motivated to reduce the demands of the drive. Does that help you to understand that concept a little better?
Yes, thank you.
And one thing to remember when we're talking about the drive reduction theory, the drive theory, is that it is mostly used to explain physiological behavior, the things that are going on in our bodies, right? So we're not talking about going to college necessarily by the drive reduction theory, okay? The criticisms of this theory is that some believe that it oversimplifies our behavior. And again, when you read in the text, and I'm happy to hear that you guys are taking this to the detail that you are, um, there are theorists that's going to always criticize other theorists because they believe that their way of seeing it, explaining it, is better. And those who believe that their way of seeing it better when it comes to motivation say that this is just too simple. Our behavior is not just motivated by the fact that when you're hungry, you eat. Because what about people who eat because they're depressed, or eat because they're excited, or eat because they're in a social situation, right? So the theories are presented for you to, again, application, for you to think about, well, does that really fit for me? Or does that fit for people I know? If I were trying to make a decision, which theory would I think is the most true? And then you make a case for that. Good question. Micah, did you get your question yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I have a question. It's on like one of the past modules.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. It was the left side versus the right side, like the dominant brain, like
Of the
the
brain. Hmm.
of your brain. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Like, can you like touch up on that just a little bit more? Like, is it really true that your left side is supposed to be more creative?
So the research, the literature on the brain says that there are specific skills and abilities that are housed in various parts of the brain. And you could look at that any kind of way you want to. For example, your book talks about the fact that um, based on the lobes, right, there are certain things for the frontal lobe that is not developed fully developed in people till you're about 23 or 24 years old, which means many students at Norfolk State University, they don't have a fully developed brain because you're not 24 yet, right? And then there are the temporal lobes, which are on each side. And the brain is um, bilateral. In other words, there's a left brain and a right brain. right? And there is the occipital lobe. You read that. The occipital lobe is in the back of the brain, and it's responsible for vision, right? That's where the saying, you got eyes in the back of your head comes from. The information from our eyes goes to the occipital lobe, but you have an occipital lobe on each side, this is my right, the right brain and the left brain. You have all of those lobes located. And then you could also look at it as you've mentioned, Micah, and that is creativity and logic on one side of the brain. I'm sorry, creativity on one side of the brain, logic on the other side of the brain, right? And so people who are skilled in various things, they seem to operate more on the right side versus the left side of the brain. And they know that based on what the text talks about, looking at PET scans, looking at, because MRIs give you structure, but the CAT scans and PET PET scans, they give you activity, like how the brain is firing. And so when we're engaged in creative kind of thoughts and activities, the the left side of the brain is more activated. And then the right side, I might need to check that. The right side of the brain is more activated when we're doing things such as the logic and the calculation and the study of things. Let me just make sure I'm right about that, because I want you guys to know I haven't taught in 5 years, but I know how to research information. Okay. So the left brain is more of the logical and the calculation side of the brain, also responsible for our verbal abilities and our factual information. The right side of the brain is the more creative side of the brain. It is more intuitive. It's based, when we talk about something is based on how we feel, that's right brain activity. And it's more artistic, the right brain. However, the important thing to remember about the brain is that it works as a unified organ. We can talk about certain skills and abilities being on the right side versus the left side, but the brain has to work together in a unified way. And that's where the corpus callosum, if you remember that, that is that band of fibers that connects the left brain to the right brain. Does that answer your question, Micah, or did you want to go deeper into that?
No, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Again, I think this is fascinating. I'm loving your questions. Are there any more? It might not be a bad idea to do this per module. I just have to figure out a schedule that I could do it consistently. I had a meeting tonight till 7, and so that's why this is as late as it is. But maybe we can come up with doing this per module and again record it for your peers to be able to see it at their convenience and for you to refer back to it if you'd like. And I don't want to rush it, but at the same time, if you guys don't have any other questions, I will talk about the logistics of the course and the grading and the things that are going on with that.
I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
Me neither.
Okay. Silas, any questions?
Not as of right now. No, ma'am.
Okay. So I've received some emails where people's grades are not showing. They want to know, can they have extra time to do some of the assignments, particularly for those people who got enrolled in the class late. My answer to that is yes. Um, I will most likely keep all modules open. It means I do have to go and change dates because I put the dates in based on the modules, and that meant that they closed when the module was over. But I think it's only fair to allow people time to catch up. And the fact that this is a fast-paced course, um, means that we're doing things quickly anyway. So I will most likely keep it up until week 6 because I feel like if people have not done 6 weeks prior work by the 6th week, I feel like I've given ample time to catch up. And that last week needs to be devoted to keeping things um, keeping things on pace. The other thing side of it realistically is that although I'm willing to extend because of the extenuating circumstances around this course, I have to be realistic also that with 48 students to allow an extended period of time to complete work is going to be a nightmare for me to grade. And I feel like it's fair to extend it for 6 weeks, but at the same time, I will still need to submit grades 2 weeks after that. So I have to have a realistic um, pace to be able to do that as well. And I do think that that's fair to leave the modules open for 6 weeks. So that will take care of that piece of it, I believe. In regards to MindTap and the sync with Blackboard, I'm working with MindTap and with Blackboard to try to resolve that, but your grades will be posted as soon as I'm able to make that connection between the two. And it's not for everyone. Some people's grades are showing, some people's grades are not. And so that's what I have to say about that. Are there any questions about the logistics?
Ma'am.
Yes?
No, ma'am.
Oh, no, ma'am. Okay.
No questions.
Okay. Silas, if you have a question, let us know. If not, it's okay.
I have no questions either.
Okay. So what made you guys show up tonight? It's 8:30 and we can stop, but I really want to know if you feel like this would be beneficial to do again. Maybe that's the question.
I showed up because I feel like I wouldn't say I'm being rushed a little bit, but it was just like I felt like I was like, I was like a little stressed about this
Hmm.
course because I was like, oh my gosh, I got to learn all this like information in such a short span of time. I'm just
Yeah.
like, let me see what, the teacher has to say. So I just joined.
Okay. I'm glad you did. Because the last thing that I want is for people to be stressed in taking a class that I really think has great applicability to your life, whether you're a psychology major or not. There are things you can learn about your brain, your consciousness, how you're motivated to do things that can really last you for a lifetime and benefit you. As an instructor, I am well aware that this course got started. In a way that wasn't the most effective. But I'm willing to work with you guys to do everything that I can to right size that by the end of the term.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah. I agree with what she said. Same thing. And I also just wanted to come and like speak to you as well, or just like really, yeah, just to speak to you because I don't think I haven't reached out to you like
Okay.
this at all. So I think this was very helpful to get to know you as well.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. And although I'm in the office, and I will say this part as well, just to know about my responsiveness, I really try to respond within 48 hours. However, I am the department chair, and with that, like the other day I counted and I got like 80 emails in a day. So it's really hard for me to keep up with the class when it wasn't originally a part of my assignment for this term. But again, we didn't want to cancel the class. So if I have not responded in 48 hours, I'm sorry to say you probably need to email me again because it's gotten lost. I'm trying to keep up with that, but it's really challenging. Um, and I am in the suite. I'm in 216 Brown Hall. Um, Mondays through Fridays, right? But if you want to make an appointment, or if you want to meet with me, just ensure with me by email that I will be in the office, not in a meeting, and we can schedule a time to meet. I welcome that as well.
For me, the reason why I'm here, this is my first time doing anything related to my psychology class. So I just wanted to get myself involved because me personally, I've been struggling with school. So I'm just trying to get myself more involved with everything and just stay on top of everything. And that's it.
That's a good motive, right? You want to do well and you want to stay on top of things. So the offer
Yes.
extends to you as well, Silas. If you want to talk one-on-one, you could always schedule a Zoom, or you guys are all welcome. The class is welcome to meet with me one-on-one. Um, who's psych major? Who's a psych major?
I
Me.
am.
I am as well.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I want you to know that there's a psych club. In case you don't know, there's a psych club and they're very active. About 2 weeks ago, I attended a um, session that they did with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We're really looking at bringing a walk on campus to bring awareness to suicide. Somebody brought to my attention that there's a 24-year-old football player who allegedly committed suicide today. And so again, the relevance of psychology to me is very clear. The Psych Club today did another workshop on internships and practicum and jobs. So I don't know how many, but vendors came on campus. Students were able to network with them, but this is all the work of the Psych Club. So if you want more information about the Psychology Club, shoot me an email and I'll get you the advisor's name and you can get involved. They're always looking for new members. And when you're a psych student, the more involved you get, the more people you know, the more faculty you get to know, and the better your college experience can be. I don't want to hold you guys unnecessarily. If you have questions or you have comments, let's talk about them. But if not, I'm going to give you back your evening.
So what are your office hours again?
I'm there all the time because I'm the department chair. But
Oh,
because I have meetings and things like that, I would ask you to email me just to make sure I'm available.
okay.
And if you want to do it by Zoom, we could do it by Zoom. But if you wanted to come by, you could come by. But typically, I'm not there on Fridays. Um, but I am there on Mondays through Thursdays with
And I think
lots
it's
and
a good
lots of meetings.
idea to continue the Zooms throughout each module.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it. And the next ones will be easier because it'll just kind of be the one module. All right. In church, they say if all minds are and hearts are clear. That's how they end stuff. So if there aren't any more questions, I really do appreciate those of you who were able to come. And again, I've recorded it so we can refer back to it and your colleagues, your peers can have access to it as well. I look forward to seeing you next week. And I'll just submit a time and hopefully you guys can make it. Okay.
Okay. Have a nice night.
All right. Good evening.
Have a nice one.
Thank you. You
Have a good
too.
one.
Thank you. Good night.